Cool. Sort of again, I mean, there's a bit of theory in some of this, but this is all stuff we practice and teach in our businesses. And there's one thing that, I don't know where I heard it from, but it's really true. Fear robs faith.
Yes.
You know, you turn the radio on at the moment, and it's gloom and gloom, and it knocks us off course. You know, and I remember in the GFC, you know, Gareth Morgan would come on the radio. It'll be so negative. Email ZB and say, please stop having Gareth on the radio. It's too negative. And, you know, but what we feed our mind with is actually really important in these times, you know. But fear robs faith. And how we navigate challenging times is, and like we're in at the moment, is our mindset is really important, you know. And you know, again, where are we getting fed from? And you know, and that's our faith. We've got this unfair advantage.
Yeah.
You know, and in the global financial crisis, you know, I just made this decision, you know, we weren't going to participate in the recession. And I shared with Clark and Gorley a little video Tony Katari did, you know, about the hot dog stand and stuff like that. And it's quite a good one actually, because again, what we hear around us impacts our thinking and gives us fear, and then we don't take those steps anymore. So the global financial crisis, we said, well, how can I participate in that? And instead we grew 3 to 4 times in size.
I love it. So great.
And going into COVID, we said, well, actually, you know, we're not going to participate. We're going to actually honour the government and do what we're meant to do and all those type of things. But you know, like some of our GMs come to me, Mike, we should shed 20% people. And Teresa and I talked to them and said, no, we're not actually. That might be what our human, earthly minds gravitate to.
That's right.
But from a faith perspective, that's not where Teresa and I were at. And so right now we've saved hundreds of jobs and we haven't had one redundancy.
Right. Yeah.
And now that's not the reality for a lot of us, you know, because we have different businesses. We do have to, you know, position our business, and there is tough decisions we have to make, you know, and that's the right thing. But, you know, again, how do we have our mindset and how do we take those steps of faith? Because who are we really listening to? Are we listening to Gareth Morgan and Mike Hoskin, or are we actually listening to our Heavenly Father? And where are we actually getting fed from, and where are we getting encouraged from, and things, and you know. And so your business is challenging, isn't it? You know, and you're probably hearing about success in mine, but you know, we bought a company, Systems.com, in 2010, which is still in the GFC, realistically. And it stretched me, you know. And I remember one day going to work and I just had to stop. And I was a blubbering mess on the side of the road in my car because it was just stretching me so much. Here I was pushing myself to position the business. And I just said, you know, Lord, is this right? Or, you know, I feel like that car doing 180 k's down the motorway in second gear, the pistons fly out the side of the block. And he said, now, haven't I been faithful? You know, you keep taking that step forward. And Warwick Prison came up, like I mentioned before, our AHSPL business in 2011, and so we won the project for security for Warwick Prison, PPP Prison. It was a $20 million project. It was really exciting. We're bidding this thing and we're in partnership. Oh, we've won it! Isn't that fantastic? And then you get the dawning reality, my goodness, now we've actually got to do it. You know, and we have a saying internally, any idiot can win a job, it takes more than an idiot to do the job. You know, because we've all made mistakes and bid things wrong and priced it wrong and have had the pain. We've got a couple of those at the moment. And you know, it's and so worry, I learned a lot from worry, and our business learned a lot. For one, what we could achieve. Two, that how we break things down, you know. And, you know, worry, we had 4 months of legal negotiations, it probably cost about 40 or 50,000. And I learned in that too, the power of silence. You know, the power of pause. you know, you get into this negotiation of lawyers, and these were big, expensive lawyers, and it was actually quite good just to pause and not respond for 3 days, actually. And then they'd reposition and come back, are you all right? Or we'll concede on this, you know? And once they just had to lay it. And we had a word at that time about being the head and not the tail as well, you know? We're called to business, by the way. We're going to be the head and not the tail. And I was dealing with this Saab in Australia over at their legal counsel. And I had a call before we had this negotiations call, and I said, you need to come in with your last offer, guys, because the legal terms you're putting us under are not acceptable at the moment. We're not going to sign the deal, da-da-da-da-da. So they came onto this call where they said, here you go, the deal's the same as it was before, the legal terms. And I lost it, you know. Nicely lost it, you know. I told you guys to come on the call with your best offer that it wasn't. Look, we're going to tell you next 24 hours whether we're in or out, we're going to pull the plug on the project. They came back within hours and conceded on everything, you know. So sometimes it's the courage to stand up in different situations. But what we learned of Wiri is Wiri was a prison of 37 buildings, and we had to put the security across this facility. But the great big project was made up of a whole lot of individual buildings. One bite of the apple, try to get your head around the whole apple, it'll kill you. All right? One bite at a time, we get our heads around it, you know. And, you know, and I then finally signed the contracts for Wiri, because it wasn't just a project, it was a 25-year maintenance contract. Not a 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, but 25 years fixed term. And it was like getting married, right? So I signed them, and those contracts had on my desk for 3 weeks until I had the courage to send it back. You know, because, gee, it was commitment, you know. And I think we capped our liabilities at 12 million on that, you know. You know, so they're big, bold, courageous decisions at times, or you sort of think, you know, but it was a fantastic project, hugely successful. And there's many faith things out of that we learnt. And the hardest thing of that whole project was the legal negotiations, you know, and God just went before us in all the way. And we then looked at Waikeria, the Waikeria project, and we're in Fletcher's consortium for that. In the whole consortium pulled out, but our first price on that was $106 million as a project. And we just couldn't sign off the risk, because the project was too big for us. And, you know, so there's wisdom at times too, where you're just gonna, well, you know, it's insane, you know. But there's these times when we're really challenging, and what I do, I just put one foot in front of the other. I do what I know. I do what I know. I do what I know. Does that make sense? You know, you've got the stuff over here, well, I can't process all of it right now. I have to process very shortly, but I'm going to do what I know right now, today, and that gives me time to work through that in my mind. Talked about the GFC and leadership, the chair. So we got a little house at Mount Ruapehu and years ago, and I guess the leadership in the business has always been quite lonely, and probably everyone relates to that. You know, it's a lonely road in business often when it's your own business. And I saw this, and God must have been talking to me, you know, it was this huge big gravel pile like they had on the sides of the road. And some kids had gone and put a little school chair on the top of this pile of loose metal. And what it said to me is leadership is lonely, but stay in the chair. It's so easy to push eject. But if we're called to business, we stay in the chair, you know? And that's what it said to me. You know, it wasn't get out of the chair. It was, you know, stay in the chair. And again, all of these different things is give us something to work through. Well, how do we actually manage stress, and how do we actually navigate, and how do we teach our people to handle stress? How do we build resilience actually in our people? And this might sound really dumb, and you all know this. Stress equals lack of information or a situation we cannot control. Simple, eh? That's what I believe causes stress. So in a case of Wiri Prison, how do we break the apple down into pieces? We can actually do it. So the sooner we actually, so what we tend to do when we have stressful things, we put it over there. And yes, we're putting one foot in front of the other, but we actually just leave it over there. We're not going to deal with that, you know. But actually it works way. It means we're really grumpy. We're take it out on everybody, and all these different things, and it wears us down. Yeah? And so what we tend to do is get out a sheet of A4 paper and we start to write out. I mean, times when I'm stressed, at times I get out and actually write what's actually causing me stress. Sometimes they're actually just little things I just haven't done. Like easy win, deal with it, you know, and how do we break the problem down? Now, sometimes it can be an illness, so it's a situation we can't control. So how do we get support around it? But it's a simple thing. But often people are stressed in their roles, and it's just because they can't get their head around everything that's going on. So the sooner they actually get the bit of paper out, the sooner they actually start listing it out, the sooner they start to get their head around it and we get a solution. In the AS business, I mean, how many times over the years, in the old days, I used to get called in, the various managers saying, we've got too much work on what we can't deliver on. First, I think I go in and say, well, so where's your list of all your projects? Now tell me the completion dates on all of them. Oh, I don't know on this one. I don't know on this one. Well, why do you think it's stressful? Go and find out the completion date. Oh, this one's now not to November next year. So, well, that's not a problem anymore, is it? No, it's not. So how do we break it down? How do we get our heads around it? Because once we get our heads around it, we can get a plan. In Wirrie's prison, we got down to, the big problem was the 3 house blocks, 960 cells. And we worked out we needed this crazy amount of staff for that. But that was the problem we had to solve. The rest was actually all easy. So the size of the problem had gone down to here. Then we could find a way to solve that problem. And that's how you deal with stress and pressure, you know. Questions around that?
You seem pretty busy. So one of the things probably not so important at your age, but when you get a bit older, is your health. So how do you handle making sure you keep healthy and fitness and that sort of thing? What do you do?
Yeah, look, I think that's very much. I mean, I decided when I went into business in 1999, I was never going to work a weekend. I actually, when I was put on the tool belt, I said someone would have to pay me $1,000 labour on a Saturday for me to work. And I put some boundaries around that. Sure, I worked longer days, probably Monday to Friday in those days. I was probably the first in the office and the last to leave. Since we moved the groups, you know, we put professional directors in. The board's very much around Mike working, I hate the saying, on the business, not in the business. That, apart from probably this year, most years I'll have more up to 6 weeks off, around that balance and things like that. Every morning I take my son, we live in Pukekohe, and my son goes to Woka College. I take him to school, which is completely the wrong direction for work in the city, which gives me 20 minutes with my son in the morning. And it usually means I get in the office about 9:15, 9:30, and yeah, and I share dinner duties at home and stuff like that too, so I have a pretty good balance. But there's times when you don't have that, and there's times where, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what about fitness?
I'm probably not the sporty type, but I do snow ski and I do different things outdoors. We go out to the farm, we're active in those ways, and we walk and different things like that. So you try to have that balance as much as you can.
Maybe buy a bike.
No, I've just driven a deal with a guy on a bike. He said $10 and you can have one.
That was a deposit.
But that's some of the journey stuff we've gone through around that. And the other thing is growing as a leader, you know, and glass ceilings, you know. And one of the journeys, when I went to work for United Group, I was this young manager. And I walked in there and you can imagine what they all said, who's this young buck? Who do you think he is, you know? Every one of my staff was older than me. But I believe it taught me something about leadership. Leadership isn't about giving commands. It's about encouraging, it's about coaching, it's about establishing trust and relationship. And it's about caring for people and stuff like that. It's not about issuing commands, that's what I believe. So I think it probably made me more into quite a consultative person as a leader. Does that make sense? And I remember there was one guy who was quite close to retirement age, and he was a thorn in my side. It just, you know, he'd always get the wrong end of the stick, and he made my life so difficult. When I resigned, he was the one who went to the MD to try and make them keep me. So, you know, but we're on a journey of leadership. And I think today, I've been in senior management for 26 years or something like that in our own group and other companies, and I think how little I know today. Hugely I knew nothing back then. That leadership is a journey, and how we have to keep on trying to be a better leader and leading others, you know. And I think of these glass ceilings, you know, and What I mean by that is, I think it's like a high-rise building here. Right, and here we are, there's all these ceilings in it. And we go through a different career and jobs in our life, and our business go at a different stage. And we're in this comfortable stage, and then we get into this more, I don't know quite how to deal with that, and that's causing me pressure and stress and something. And I call that a ceiling. And we can choose to stay in that, or we can choose to navigate through it. Does that make sense? So an example is, we see people's CVs, hop, 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 hop. I'm a contracts manager of this company. 8 months later, I'm now a contracts manager of this company. And now I'm 12 months in this company. And we believe the reason for that is they've hit the ceiling. Instead of working through the company they've got to help them through that ceiling to get through to that good place, oh no, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not going to admit I actually don't know how to do that. I'm just going to stay a stressed person. I'm going to resign and go to the next company. Oh, I was a contract manager over here. But they're not actually breaking through the ceiling. And we all do it. I reckon I go through 3 ceilings a year. And the good thing about it, when you think of it that way, it's actually really freeing. This is just the ceiling. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get some support around me to help me through it, to take the business to the next level, or me personally to the next level. Right? It might be you've got some new stuff underneath and it's really challenging, and it's challenging in your leadership style. That's really great. It's really great to have challenging people underneath you because it develops you. The wrong thing is to create nice, safe people underneath you because it doesn't develop you. It doesn't develop the business. Is it my thing? You want respectful people, but it's great to have people who question you. You know, and that's what we believe, and we see it all the time. You know, and so you go and break through the ceiling, and you get comfortable again. You go break through another ceiling, and that's the been for me. You know, I've had to change. Actually, I've got to be a CEO. I've actually got to do this, and I can't do that anymore. And actually, this is really difficult. And going to talking with CEOs of the warehouse group, and that is actually really out of my comfort zone. And you know what I mean? And all these different things. But it's realising we were on a journey. And that there are these ceilings. And sometimes we feel just pressed up like this. You know? And you feel like you can almost break. Or you could push the eject. But you stay in the chair and you work your way through it. And that's often what we call proactive reinvention, where we get, or reflective, we get some help or mentoring around it to help us get through that stage and go to the next level. Because God has a plan for your life. Right? And this is developing us and who we are. And that's really probably what a lot of my journey is from a Sparky. I've got 4 advanced diplomas, but I didn't do them, I was given them. So it's a bit of a cheat version, really. And you know, and it's that growth mindset of realising, yeah, there's pain and there's stress, but how are we actually now going to get through that into that next piece? Because God's doing a work in us. You know? And it's realising too, you're never going to be a perfect leader. None of us are. You know? Oh, wrong thing, didn't I? So we focus a bit on Jim. Anyone heard of Jim Collins? Yeah, so we focus a bit on level 5 leadership and what that's about. So this is recognise the journey of a leader. You know, we've got a highly capable individual, and then we've got a contributing team member, number 2, a competent manager, effective leader, and a level 5 leader. And you won't see this on the back, but level 5 leader, it's about humility. It's not about ourselves, right? So when we have a great win, it's about the team. And when we've got a major issue, it's the leader who steps up and takes responsibility for it. Great leaders say, actually, that's my mistake, guys, I'm really sorry about that. Well, great leaders actually say, I don't know what to do in this situation, team, can you help me with it? That's what great leaders do. Great leaders ask questions, right? They ask questions downwards in their team, sideways and upwards. They're not afraid to do so. And I do that all the time with our team. You know, actually I don't know quite how it is. What do you guys think around this? You know, that's what great leaders actually do. It's about being prepared to be vulnerable. You know, and that's what builds great companies. You know, so, and level 5 leaders they're about the business, they're just so passionate around it, about what's to come and they inspire and they encourage, but equally they're not afraid to have tough discussions too, and be honest discussions, you know, and accept the truth, you know, and so this is really, really neat stuff, I believe, and it's the journey. It's what we all aspire to be as that level 5 leader, because the level 5 leader is really a servant leader too, you know. It's about the team, it's about the people, and it's about, you know. And so this is where we come to that servant leadership. So the old traditional leadership were, thou shalt do what thou art told, and there's still those moments, you know. But instead of the servant leader, I mean, I've just gone down to, I once I tried 9 reports, and now I've actually got down to 5 reports, you know, which is good. But my role is to support them. I'll say, actually, can I help you with that? You know? I mean, some of them have had hand grenades of tenders at times, and I've worked till 12:30 in the morning, and then one of the other GMs has taken over thereafter to work the rest of the night, you know. How do we join the scrum to get through? You know, my job is to support. There's certain things above people's pay grades, and that's my problem. You know, and we hit it on a project in the South Island for Advanced, and the managers were all concerned because the construction company said they're going to charge us $10,000 a day liquidated damages and all this because this gear hadn't come over. And our team were really stressed out around it, and they're actually pretty good. So it even got past the GM to me, and I said, hey, it's my problem. So I rang up the head of Hawkins, and I said, hey, there's this problem. I can't give you an immediate solution, but I'm going to ring you every 3 days, and I'm going to give you an update. And you can ring me, here's my mobile number, you can ring me anytime you want. And I did that for 2.5 weeks. After 2.5 weeks, you say, you guys are amazing, we appreciate the updates, the comms, we now understand it's not your fault. You know, but there's certain things at different times. It's like dealing with WorkSafe when there's an accident. It's the top execs of the company's problem to deal with. It's not these other people, even though they might have GM, there's certain ownership things we take. But we're about rolling up our sleeves, we're about caring for our people, you know. Yeah. So you can accomplish anything in life, providing you don't mind who gets the credit. So what we achieve is all glory to God, right? And to those, and that's why level 5 leadership is not actually about us. It's about the great work our people do. That's why I say we've had lots of awards, but that's actually about our people. And AUT awards, the Valdres criteria, which is business excellence globally, is a proper framework. And one of our managers said to me, it was the highlight of his life, getting that, the business getting that award, because it recognised 30 years of effort for him in respect of ownerships of business. Isn't that quite neat? Well, it's sad in some ways, but it's neat, you know? You know what I mean? And yeah, so I think that's, so as leaders, we're never expected to know everything. You know, it's one of the things, I don't usually see any level 5 leadership in politicians. They never usually admit they're wrong or made a mistake, you know. They, you know, and often they'll claim the glory over different things and different things like that, you know. I'm not trying to say there'd be anybody at the moment, but, you know, it's just generally, but there's too much the use of I. In our business, we don't like the word I, we use the word we. Right? Even when it was just me, I used the word we. And you can, if you're the only employee, well, we's you and God and your family, you know. But it's a mindset shift when you think that way and communicate that way. Quite a few people used to say to me, so who's we? Great leaders ask questions, again, upwards, sideways, downwards. You never have to do it on your own. And that's always been a great thing. You've got a great bunch of people in this room. There you can reach out to the room, you can reach out to Clark, you can say, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. Other people in the room you can ask, you can ring up me, you know. But, you know, it's one thing, I've known a lot of people globally, entrepreneurs organisation, I've sent business plans to them, I've sat down and had cups of coffee, critique this, what do you think? You think this is a load of rubbish, what I'm talking? You know, it's how we get through it, you know. Having the right people that are speaking into us in our lives is really, really important. I'm going to play a little video. Has anyone seen 5 behaviours of a cohesive team? Again, all of the stuff is what we use in our business. So,
my interest in teams really stems from my childhood, because when I was a kid, my dad used to come home from work frustrated by his company. Now, he was a great salesman, God rest him.
it always does that with PowerPoint, doesn't it?
Who's the speaker?
His name comes up here. Patrick Lencioni.
Oh, Lencioni.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually a Christian, I think so.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's gonna be challenging, isn't it?
My interest in teams really stems from my childhood, because when I was a kid, my dad used to come home from work frustrated by his company. Now, he was a great salesman, God rest his soul, and a great guy. But he was always complaining about the way he was treated at work and how dysfunctional things were. And I didn't know what that meant when I was a kid. But later on, when I got my first job as a consultant, I was dealing with things like strategy and marketing and other operational issues in business. And I found myself distracted by this issue of teamwork. Because I thought, man, if we could get people working in teams, really working together well, it would change everything from the way we dealt with customers, to the bottom line, and to the way people enjoyed and felt fulfilled in their work. You see, I've come to the conclusion that teamwork truly is the greatest competitive advantage that any group of people can have. And it's not that complicated. It's pretty simple, but it is hard because it requires a lot of work over time and a lot of courage. I think it's actually an intentional, strategic decision we have to make. And by making that decision, we'll be much more likely to accept the cost and the sacrifice that it requires, and that will make it possible for us to encounter the full power of teamwork. You know, if I could say anything to leaders of teams, it would be this. One day you're going to retire from your job and work. And most people that want to retire think about doing other good things in life, serving people, doing missionary work or helping the poor, something wonderful. And that's great. I want you to realize that while you're leading this team, you are having a bigger impact on people's lives than you may ever have. You change the way they go home at night, the way they treat their family and their friends and strangers on a bus. You affect their self-esteem, and that's going to carry over throughout their life. So let's not wait till we retire to realize the impact we can have on people's lives. And your ability to build a good team and to help them feel a part of that team might very well be the most altruistic thing you ever do.
I think that's kind of special, actually, Get my laptop down there. What do we think of that?
So good.
So don't we have a huge opportunity, and we talk about the whole Christian thing too, is how we can lead, we can influence, and we can encourage. And, and sometimes it's with people too,
The first discipline for building a healthy organization is
the tough love too at times, or how we shape and help people through, what they're actually going through. Gosh, I'm trying to get back. Shocking desktop. So talking about some more about that, and I had a young guy years ago, and he came to work for us at 17. He dropped out of university, and we encouraged him, and then he had a dream to be a paramedic. I was probably a bit of tough love, and I really pushed him to go and do it. And he works for St. John's today. He still works as part-time actually a little bit because he's a very smart tech person. And he's passed all his exams. And he wrote me a card, and he came to see me, and he says, "You're like a father to me," because, and because I helped him, I guess, through that stage of helping him to believe in his dream, you know, and so we can have an influence, we can change people's lives, you know, and the way we treat them, and, you know, look, we all have problem stuff. We've got hundreds of staff, I have to tell our manager, we've got to accept there's a few problems, but, you know, how do we work through those? How do we love the person, even sometimes they're not the person to stay with us, we still love the person, you know, and we're trying to help them on their path to either to another employer or to improve, you know, improve first. But, you know, we do affect how people go home at night, you know, we really do, and we're in a place of influence to do that. So, the other thing is Maslow hierarchical needs. Anyone heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows about this? Do you want to come to it, Josh?
No.
Actually, we use a bit of an adaptation of it, to be honest. I'll do it on here. You know, and it was Tony Guittari who taught me this, and this applies to every single one of us. Our kids, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, any of us. Is in life there's different things, right? So the first thing we all need is security, right? Hey, I'm going to get paid on Wednesday, I'm going to have food on the table and shoes on my children's feet and a roof over our head. And faith really comes in that security piece too. It's a foundation for life, right? So we call that security. So this is an adaptation of Maslow's hierarchical needs. After that, we actually need some variety in life, and we've got to be excited and all those different types of things. You get that? Mm-hmm. After that, there's connection. No, so it's one thing I don't know if anyone's really same conclusion as me during the whole COVID thing, is Zoom and Microsoft Teams in the end just isn't the same. Mm-hmm. It's okay to start with, isn't it? But in the end, it's just not the same. Does anyone agree with that? You know, it's because we're actually created by our Heavenly Father to be like this, and commune together and share meals together and actually connect to each other, right? So in life, connection is actually really important. And then the other thing after that is actually the word significance or recognition. Alright? So all of us actually need that. That's actually who we are. So if we actually think about this, if you're a primary care provider, you're the primary carer and you're at home with children, it's often when a spouse goes to work, you miss out on some of this. I remember my wife always saying, it's all right, fine for you, dear, to go after work, you get to have intelligent conversation all day. I'm only talking to the baby, you know, and they you know, a lot of primary carers actually lose significance because suddenly now they don't have their place in the work. Does people relate to that, you know? But these things are all things. So usually when someone leaves your company, they're missing some of these. Either one, the company's going broke, right, which is really the foundation. But either they're not feeling significant or valued, they're not connecting with the team, or it doesn't interest them enough. Usually it's got to be getting into three of those. Does that make sense? So if you have a baby or a child, they've got these same needs. If you have a family member, elderly parents, they've got the same needs. The need for connection, the needs to having significance and recognition, you know, the security, you know, all these same things apply to every single one of us. But even in life ourselves at times, we are struggling. And we can often come down to some of these things again. But this really helps. And so we share this in our leadership teams, and some of them it's changed their lives. And unfortunately, some of our staff meant, well, now I'm taking Fridays off because I'm going to play golf with my father every Friday, you know. But it starts to say, you know, what are the steps we take around often these things in our lives as well? How do we ring our parents intentionally? Or that brother we haven't spoken to for 6 months? You know? And these are important things. So in life we have all these and we get to a certain age and what happens? Midlife crisis. You ever hear about it? No one's said that? I guess there's a point in life we get to a point, there must be more than this. Can you relate to that? And there's two more. And this is growth. Where actually, God's created me for an exciting future. And I'm going to reinvent myself, I'm going to learn new things, and I've got a new chapter ahead. Right? I'm not passed or used by Dave or different things, I have a purpose, different things like that. And the last here is legacy. It's the last need. And one of the biggest things for me is, in legacy, is about the community work we do. That's seeing our people develop as leaders, you know, and what it's done in their lives. We have a foundation as well, my wife and I, the Runway Foundation, and we work with at-risk youth and ADHD kids, and community and food banks and stuff like that. I mean, in the space of 2 weeks last year, our youth workers intervened in 3 youth suicides, you know. And I share this with our teams, and you know, even on your worst day at work, and you go home and it's your worst day you've had, you have impacted through the work we do through our community initiatives. That's often saving lives and doing different things, you know. And there's legacy in that every single day, you know. And those are really rewarding things for me. We do not own our businesses for the money. It's not what called to business has actually been about. It's been the fruit of it. It's actually been the fruit of these things we're talking about today that's actually made them profitable, because everything is a fruit of culture. You know, every single thing is a fruit of culture, which we'll talk about. But this changes lots of people's lives. When you really grasp this in your own family, and you actually start to be intentional around things and valuing spouses and encouraging them and encouraging children, because children need to have this too. You know, sometimes we might be a production line worker, but we get that significance because we're the coach of the rugby team on Saturday. And that might be our legacy too. You know? Does he get that? Load of crap? No, you get it?
That's good.
So it's a bit of an adaptation of the original, but it's really good. So this is what we teach in our internal training courses, for people to really understand that in life, these are those core things. So we have staff newsletters that go, and we won't send them by email, and we will not give them to staff. We post them to the homes. And they're about 22 pages long, dare I say, and they tell everything about group and what we're doing. But they touch on all of these, right? And they're designed to sit on the coffee table. So when mum and dad come over, or the kids are there, they read what our employee does. Often there's a picture and praise from customers, and it touches all of these types of things, you know. And it's a real, so we've got in our intranet cloud, we've got every one we've ever had for years and years and years and years and years, and you can see the change in the business over time. And but it's a great way, you know, to push that forward. So it goes into culture. So again, everything is a fruit of culture. So when you focus on culture, you have great customer outcomes, because people actually focus on the customer, they love the customer. They give quality, they work safely and profitable. In the GFC, one of the things I did, and we just did this in COVID actually, you know, in the GFC I wrote a letter to every staff member we had across the country, and I think we put $300 of supermarket vouchers in every envelope, and we sent it out, right? And I got these handwritten letters back from spouses and different things thanking us, and it's not what we did it, but our earnings actually went up. That's not why we did it, you know. Yeah, so it's really interesting. We've just done it with COVID. We just paid all the staff, 100 staff, a $200 bonus each. I wrote a letter to the families on that one too, you know. And you know, so how do we actually be intentional around culture every single day? And so we use this jigsaw analogy. You know, we've all done a jigsaw. Who was, when they've done a jigsaw, has been getting to the end, and so I'm sure there's not enough pieces here. Who's hidden the last pieces? All the stirrers. Yeah, look, we get to it, you know, you think, gee, is there enough? Because if you don't have all the pieces, it's never complete, right? So organisational culture of great companies is we believe that every single piece represents a person in the organisation. Every piece has actually got the same significance. They've been created individually by God, alright? I ain't no more important than anybody else in our organisation. I do a different role. So that means I have to be accessible to. If anyone can ring me up, that's absolutely fine. And I'll ring them up. Sure, I won't talk about their pay because that's done through their line manager and different things like that. We're one organisation, we're one culture. Alright? Now at times we have a problem person, but usually the culture will force the person out. You know? Does that make sense? So that's what we believe. So again, how do I, so I'm on AET's board. Now AET's has obviously been in the media recently, and they're around sexual allegations and all sorts of things. And they, and what they're saying is they've had all these titles of professor and associate professor and all these titles for years and years. And they're going to move to get rid of them all. And they've taken on my jigsaw analogy. They just put it out to the academics just about a month ago, you know, to try and actually break down the culture and change this intimidation and a lot of these things that happen in that sort of environment of control and different things like that too. So that's how we sort of do it. That's how we communicate it even around jigsaw and around culture. Because in a jigsaw, the pieces will support each other too. You know, so I think it's quite a good way to look at. So growth mindset. So growth mindset really looks at, you know, I mean, when I went to school, I really struggled. So I'm got ADHD. My son's got ADHD. Hence why we have a foundation towards ADHD. Has anyone got ADHD in your room? No? No. Surprising. If you have ADHD, you're 3 times more likely to own your own business. That's a fact. But the world says you've got a mental illness.
Yes.
That's not the truth. You're created differently, right? Richard Branson, ADHD. Yeah, most of the world's top entrepreneurs have ADHD as different things. So we created different. Yeah, we had a tag to it, but hey, you know. So my schooling was actually pretty challenging. I mean, I was there in the school C days and managed to get 4 out of 5 subjects, and then sixth form everything fell apart really, but all my school reports used to always say Michael should spend more time looking at the teacher instead of gazing out the window. And I continue to gaze out the window now. Yeah. But it's and my school report was D, E's and F's. It was the only thing. And E wasn't for excellence or F for fantastic, you know. It wasn't good, you know. Hence, my father massaged me into trade. But those things don't define us. They're not who we are. It's not the truth. Failures that happen in our life is not the truth, you know. But we carry that stuff because we failed over here. Well, we'll fail again. You know what I mean? Or, you know, sometimes we're told we're useless. Or like the boss I had, who was the big MD, laughed at me when I set my own business. Well, guess what? 4 years later, he was working for me. God moves in mysterious ways. So, you know, these things, but how do we learn from them? How do we actually learn from the different failures? And you know, I've got a real entrepreneurial daughter, and you know, she's just unbelievable, and she's just been accepted into AUT next year doing business and art, and she says, but I don't really want to go to university, I just want to go be an entrepreneur now, I don't need to go to university. I said, you're going to do as best you can with your education, my dear, better than your father did, you know. But look, these things in life, and there's so many things, I mean, Vigilia, we took too long, we got to the point, hey, it's not all wasted. Nothing is ever wasted on the journey God takes us on. And I really believe that. You know, who ever thought I would have strapped a tool belt back on and gone back to that after being in senior management? But it was what was in my hand and what I knew. And I think often people are called to business and they go, oh, I'm thinking about doing a business, what business should I do? I believe it's already in your hand.
Yes.
He's already revealed it. You've just got to pray into it and it's actually there already. Because nothing's ever wasted. Every part of my career I've ever had, he uses today. Nothing is wasted. Even the bad bits and the painful bits, he uses. You know? And some of it keeps us grounded. You know. So we, New Zealand Defence Force, I mean, we've always done a lot of work, the AS, business, Advanced Security Business for Defence, and we do 90 to 95% of defence, all agencies, SAS to DTA to Navy, Air Force, Army, vessels, aircraft, everything today in New Zealand and land facilities. But 2008, it was tough. We had a meeting in our boardroom with a lot of our people, and I said, enough's enough, we just can't keep doing this, you know, we're just getting beaten, you know, the client's unhappy, we're doing it wrong, you know, do we just stop, you know? And we pulled it all apart, and we realised we're actually doing it wrong. You know, there's multiple stakeholders, we're only treating one as the customer, and we had to change our thinking. And we went and redid a whole lot of jobs at our cost, and we created a rule that if a commissioning engineer wasn't happy with it, we would redo it, and commercially we wouldn't override that. And that's very costly to us, you know. In the following 12 months, the Minister nominated us for an Excellence to Industry Awards in that space. We transformed our business from doing now 5% of their business doing 95% today. But if we hadn't stopped and been brutally honest with ourselves, really been honest and allowing the team to be honest, and without having the courage to actually walk away from it, you know, we wouldn't be where we are today with it, you know. So that's growth mindset. I mean, how do we pull things apart, and how do we actually keep learning, or how do we keep on going around the mountain and doing the same old things and getting the same result? What's the definition of insanity? Exactly that. So, so one organisation who's quite transformative globally is mindful of time, Clarky. So I lost a few minutes at the start. We're listening. One organisation that's transformed themselves, I don't know if you know, is Microsoft globally. Probably a business that probably was perhaps heading down a certain path and completely adopted growth mindset and looking at themselves, you know, significantly growing now. Now, never we agree with everything they do is debatable, but yeah. So growth mindset as a set of attitudes and behaviours that reflect the belief that an individual's talent is not set in stone. Talent can be developed, and I'm an example of that, right? What God can do in our lives and transform and take us is, again, going back to that thing we did earlier, that graph on the screen. You know, we might have a trajectory of where we think ourselves, God can take us to all sorts of different places, and nothing is ever wasted. Even if a business fails, He can use that. You know, He can use it in testimony and in faith and all sorts of things. Nothing is wasted. So it's about how we develop those environments of growth mindset where it's a safe place to learn, where people are actually, it's safe to actually make mistakes as well. And we in our culture are very much focused on no one ever gets in trouble telling the truth. Don't care what you've done, if you tell the truth, we can work. And that's because we work for classified agencies as well. And we fall on our sword very quickly in that space, and confessing, oh, I've done something wrong over here, because it's the government, you know. But we can deal with the truth always, you know, and then we can actually learn from that. So you probably heard some of these. Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was a disastrous failure as a soldier, a businessman, and a campaigning politician. He went on to become one of the most influential presidents in the US history. I actually think he had multiple mental breakdowns as well, you know. Elvis Presley was fired after his first Grand Ole Opry performance and promptly told he should just go back to being a truck driver. It's a good thing he didn't listen. Walt Disney, his former newspaper editor, informed him that he had no imagination and lacked any good ideas. Later, thanks to his accomplishment, his name would become synonymous with the word imagination. Steven Spielberg was rejected by the California School of Cinema and still became one of the most famous directors in history. J.K. Rowling you'll know about. Stephen King. not a book I read, but was rejected by publishers over 30 times. King's wife Tabitha retrieved the manuscript after he threw it in the trash and urged him not to give up. He didn't, and the rest is history. Failure doesn't define us. Those things that go wrong don't define us. Where do our eyes stay? Where is our focus? So none of them gave up or retreated into safety, did they? They adopted a growth mindset. How did they improve? How did they break through those ceilings? How did they get through those challenges they had to become who they became? So every day we can step into growth with courage or retreat into safety. And I think even for me, I mean, sometimes it is real courage. You know, it's like going into the lion's den almost, isn't it? You know, and I remember, I talked about the worry thing. When I was negotiating that legal stuff, in my mind I was risking our whole business for the negotiating worry. I could not watch anything to do with a police officer on TV or someone at the news or someone getting arrested without physically shaking. You know? So sometimes it is really a thing. And every time I'd go into a negotiating meeting, I'd ring my wife, we'd pray together before I would go into it, that I could be the head and not the tail. Because everything about me and my human body, I didn't want to go into those negotiations. I was scared. And when we say fear robs faith, you know, and it's that covering in prayer we go into these different situations and you learn to be more courageous over time. So when we live with a growth mindset, we see possibilities instead of limitations. Failures become valuable experiences for learning, even multi-million-dollar runs. And success enjoyed by others inspires rather than discourages us. We may think we've failed at times, but we need to instead adopt a not yet mindset. Alright? Get that? Failure does not define us. We all face challenges. How are we able to develop? So we'll probably stop for lunch there, if that works, Clarkie or Coraline. And we might just pick this up after if that works. So.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you.
How's that? Anything out of that, anybody?
Fantastic.
Amazing. So give me 5 minutes to get the rest of the lunch out.